It's like that was the word.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
We are both in pink today.
We're matching. I'm super excited that it's sunny and chilly outside.
Right? Man, what a Texas drop. We're at like
It's
80,
very emotional.
80.
I feel like Mother Nature's being very emotional this week.
85 yesterday in
Humid,
the evening,
sweaty.
humid, nasty. We get up this morning and it's like 46 degrees.
Welcome to Texas. We've been here our whole life. Why are we acting like this is some sort of a change or a surprise?
No.
Well, thanks for joining us today. If you're eating lunch or just hanging out a little bit, we're going to be talking about property taxes and the different things you need to know when you buy your house.
Right? Everybody seem to hate property taxes, but property taxes, the purpose of those is to fund our schools, our emergency services, our police departments. If you live in a subdivision, your mud taxes are included in that, and that's your water and your sewer. So property taxes are a very necessary part of
Living in America.
Living in America, in any state that you go to is going to have property taxes. I think for us, with the influx of people that we've had coming over here from a lot of other states, people really freak out when they see what our property taxes are. But we're going to talk a little bit today about why that is and why we're a little bit different here in Texas with that.
And one of the things when you're looking online and maybe thinking about a house, and there's a lot of mortgage calculators out there, and those are super helpful. But be careful if you're using a mortgage calculator, you see some big sign that says, oh, we can get you in this house for $800 a month. You know, ask questions, because generally when you see a payment that low, that means your principal and interest only. But you have to remember your taxes and your insurance also have to be added on there. So that's especially kind of a marketing tool that new construction does. And the biggest variable of those is not your insurance, but your taxes. And that's what we're going to talk about with your mud taxes. Short story, a newer home, the higher the tax rate is. It's just the way it is because the infrastructure that they're putting in.
Right. So when you're talking about property taxes, let's talk about the rates here in Texas. Typically, on average, our property tax rates across the state, they've said are somewhere around 1% to 2%. Okay, that's across the state of Texas. Now, what is that made up of? The largest percentage of that number is coming from your school taxes. That's going to be around 1% or so, depending on the school district that you're in. If you're out in rural America and you're sitting in Tarkington, let's say, because where we are, and you're at 1.9%, 1% of that is going to be your school taxes. Okay, so that's the biggest portion. If you live inside a subdivision, let's say in Harris County or Montgomery County, and it's a newer subdivision, you're going to see probably a 3.2 to a 3.8% property tax. So your school tax is going to be 1% of that, and over 1%, another 1% is going to be your mud taxes. That's a municipal utility district, and that's what provides you with your water and your sewer services. So if you live in rural America where you have your own sewer and you have your own water well, that's why that property tax rate is lower.
So when you come to us, and let's just hypothetically say you're looking in the Kingwood Porter area and you have a specific budget, we're going to talk to you about that. If we're not finding that because we're in the newer communities and we're on a higher tax rate, you may kick out 10 or 15 miles and be able to afford more because we're putting you in a lower tax rate. And that's one of the first things we're going to talk to you about. You know, we do understand school districts are a big deal, and just a general specific, both of our kids were in 5A schools, is the bigger the school, the higher the ranking it is. They just have more money than rural schools do. But I mean, we were from Splendora and we turned out okay. I mean, you know, it starts in the home. We won't go on all that school district stuff. But my point is there's different things to consider. First, your commute. Second, your school districts and what it is you're doing. Because the further out you go from the big city, the lower the taxes are going to be, the more affordability you have to get in that house. So do you want to pay money on your house and land or your taxes? It's kind of a choice because they're going to get you one way or another.
Well, and you have to think about this too. If you move into a subdivision where you're paying for a mud tax, you're not having to pay for sewers breaking down. You're not having to pay for water wells that freeze during these crazy winters. And it doesn't flood
there. That's what the retention is. It's been built with retention ponds.
There are payoffs, but if you're looking at, if that's the kind of lifestyle that you want out in the country, that's great. You're going to pay lower property taxes on it. If it's not something that you are comfortable with, there's kind of a payoff with it, with a flip. If you're looking to move into a neighborhood with a brand new home where you don't have any of the maintenance and things that go on with those items. So let's talk about, how do you know what your property taxes are and how are they paid? So here in Texas, we have what's called appraisal districts. Those tax appraisal districts are where we pay our property taxes to. That amount is based on the market value of the home. So right now is the time that we pay our property taxes. The bills have come out, or they've gone to your lender who's holding your escrow, because in your mortgage, you're going to have principal, interest, and then you're going to have escrow. That escrow amount, like Judy said, is going to be your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance escrowed in there. So right now, I just got a statement. They just paid my homeowner's insurance. So that just went out. My property taxes are going to be going out pretty soon as well.
And with that jumping in there, just because that doesn't mean you don't shop your homeowner's insurance every year, because I'm shopping mine right now. It doesn't mean, but they're not going to shop it for you. They're going to keep paying that same company unless you get aggressive and say, hey, let me shop that. So that's just a general statement.
Right. So those are the only two things within your mortgage that are going to change your mortgage amount each year. So if your property taxes go up or your homeowner's insurance goes up, your payment's going to go up. That's the only thing it's based on.
Right.
So when you get those notices from your insurance company that say, hey, here's your new rate for the year, you can definitely shop it any time of the year that you want.
So you can shop that, and you need to, we're going to talk about your
property taxes.
Your exemptions here. You need to homestead your house, but you also need to fight your tax bill every year. You need to protest it.
Right. So let's talk about the appraisal district. We have Harris County Appraisal District. It's called hcad.org. You have Montgomery County Appraisal District, which is mcad/tx.org. And then every county, Waller County, Fort Bend County, Liberty County, San Jacinto County, Walker County, they all have their own. And you can go online, and literally it's public information. You can pull up your address within your HCAD or your MCAD, whatever, and you can pull up your address and find out all kind of information about your property if you have never done that before. And there's some specifics that I can help you with if you want to give me a call or Judy a call about. We have some little tips that we can give you on different things within that public record, that if you give us a call, we can help you with that.
And if you've recently bought a house, you've got paperwork at your closing that you need to fill out and send to the appraisal district so they get the property in your name. I literally sold a property in April. I got the tax bill last week. I'm like, this is not mine. It takes them a hot minute. They're not as fast as they need to be. So if you own a home, make sure you send that form in if you just purchased this year, and then go look online to make sure it's into your name, because it doesn't happen that quickly.
It takes about 30-45 days is what it took to turn mine over. So your assessments. So we'll talk about assessments here in a minute. Your bills come out and have to be paid by the end of the year. Your next year assessments come out in April. So we pay property taxes in arrears. So we're just now paying for 2022 at the end of December. Okay. So in April, our assessment for what our new market appraised value is on our property is coming out in April for 2023.
And how do they get that number?
And how do they get that number?
They make it up. They are going to increase it by at least 10% every year until you protest it. And so make it a habit, put it on your calendar. You need to protest every single year. You very well may start out below value and you're like, hire somebody to protest it anyway if you don't know how to do it, because if you don't protest it, it's just going to keep going up and up and up whether you've done anything or not.
Well, it's going to go up anyway, but you can at least protest it, and we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how to protest it. So when the assessment value comes out, you're going to get a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you're going to see two line items. One is going to be your assessed value, and the other one is going to be market value. The market value is what they believe that your home can sell for on the market today. That doesn't mean it's accurate. When they sent mine out, I had literally just purchased my property, and it was $15,000 over what I had just paid for it. So I was able to take that information to the county assessor's office and present it to them, and they readjusted it. So now my property taxes are actually based on the actual amount that I paid for the home and not what they deemed it to be market value.
Yeah, because we still don't know where they get that number, so we're not going to try to figure it out, but you need to double check it, because a lot of times we look at things and the square footage is wrong. So if they're taxing you on 2,500 square foot and your house is 2,200 square foot, it's priced per square foot that they're charging you on.
And they had a pool on my dad's property. My dad didn't have a pool, but they had a pool listed on his property,
Right.
and they had it assessed at like $30,000 on his property. So we had to go and take that off and prove that we
There's
didn't
all
have.
kinds of mistakes, so
There's all
don't
kind
go
of mistakes.
with it.
They're
You
just
gotta-
people.
Yes.
They're just people.
And I don't know where they get their information from.
Right.
I feel like they're related to Zillow.
Well, and I think, so here's the disparity that we have. Number one, I want you to understand that the tax value on the appraisal district is not the market value.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to buy a home and you go, oh, well, let me look it up and see what the tax value is on it. And so it's on the market at $300,000 and the tax rolls say it's $220,000. That is not the value of the home. The market value is the market value that someone is willing to buy and sell it for on the current market.
Yes.
The tax assessed value is a number that is not caught up a lot of times with current market value, okay?
Well,
but they're
think of
catching
it,
them up
just
is what's
like
happening.
Zillow is they haven't been in your house. They don't know if you've made upgrades. They don't know if you've put a barn in. They don't
Right.
know those things. So they're kind of doing a general average estimate kind of thing anyway.
Right. So when you're looking at that, don't assume that that's the market value and go tell your agent, well, the tax record says it's only worth $220,000. That
We
is
don't
not
even look at
that
that.
is not correct. So when you're a homeowner, you want to fight to keep that number down as low as you possibly can. So when you see $220,000 and the house is for sale for $300,000, that's because the homeowner has done a really good job of keeping your property taxes low. That's what's happened.
Right.
So then when you go to sell that home, you're able to capture that reduced amount on there.
Because
Okay?
if you make upgrades, nobody's running down to the tax office saying, hey, I just put a pool in, I just upgraded my kitchen cabinets and my countertops, I put a whole new $50,000 kitchen in.
Right.
Will you increase my taxes?
Right.
No one does
Nobody
that.
does that.
No one does that. But we know that. That's why you need a real estate agent to really give you a full market analysis when you're thinking about selling your home.
Right.
Or buying. Same way. It's the same thing. When you're looking at it as a buyer, you're like, why is this listed for $300,000 when the tax records say $220,000? So same thing, just on the other side
Right.
of the fence.
So when we're looking at market value versus assessment value, I want you to remember those two terms because when we get to exemptions, it's going to play a role, okay? So how is the owed tax amount determined in Texas? The property value of the home that is taxable is 100% of the market value. So we have things, so what happens is the taxing authority takes that market value, what they deem the property to be worth, they take the property tax rate and apply that to the market or the assessed value of the home. That's where you get the number for what your property tax for the year is. So let's say your property taxes, for ease of, doing numbers, 1%, okay? And you've got a $100,000 home. You're going to have a property tax amount of $1,000. No, $100 is 1%. Yes. So a $100,000 home,
Yeah.
1% is $100 a year. Okay, that's how they make that assessment. So let's talk about exemptions, because exemptions in the state of Texas are how you reduce that amount. So we have several different, if you go onto the CAB website for the appraisal districts, you will see under exemptions, they will give you a whole list: timber exemptions, wildlife exemptions, homestead exemptions, over 65 exemptions, military exemption, disabled person exemptions. There are all kind of exemptions that you can apply for, and yes, you have to apply for them, number one, and you have to prove it. You can't just apply for it and they put it in there. You have to approve it. And some of these, like the wildlife or the timber, you have to consistently show that you actually are using those.
You can't just use
You can't
your
just
dogs
put it
and
on
puppies
there
as your wildlife.
and
Yeah.
then they don't keep it on there. But the homestead exemption stays with it the life of the time that you own the home. And then the veterans disability stays on there the life that you own the home. Disability is the same way for a disabled person.
Well, the exemption is per the owner. It's
It-
not
correct.
It's not per
It
the house.
It goes with the owner,
So the
not with the
only
house.
exemption that everybody gets is a homestead. So that's only one house. That's a home you live in. So you need to file that homestead exemption, and it's a significant, like 10 to 20% off of your taxes when you homestead. So if you own multiple homes, if you're an investor or you co-signed on your child's home or something, you can only homestead one home. And obviously if you own two, you want to homestead the largest valued home.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So what happens with a homestead exemption? You go in, you purchase the home, you have the documentation, you go onto the website. I know with Harris County, it is all online, all automated.
Yeah.
I think Montgomery County is too. You go online, you fill out the automated form. They're going to ask you for proof of residency,
Your
which
driver's
means
license needs to
a
match.
driver's license, either an application where you filled it out with the new homeowner address on there, or you get that first. The minute that you move into the home, you change your address. You can do it online at the text dot. You get that in the mail, and then you can take a picture of that, upload that with your filled out form. You fill in all the information, and then it takes sometimes it takes 60 to 90 days for them to turn over the homestead exemption, but it will show up on the property tax records under your address, okay?
You need to watch for that to make sure.
You need to make sure that it definitely goes on there. So a homestead exemption is $40,000 off of the school tax line item. That is it. So if you're looking at a $200,000 home and under the tax rate, 1% of that is school taxes, they're going to take, under that line item for school taxes, they're going to take $40,000 off of the assessed value of the home. So now for school taxes, you're only going to be property taxed at the $160,000 for that amount. Okay, that's how the property taxes work. The rest of the taxes, other than the MUD, they do not discount MUD, but other than the other taxes, they're like 0.01, 0.4, whatever. They're small, minute amounts. There is also an additional $3,000 that is applied towards those others. Again, MUDs do not count. The MUDs are not, from my understanding, the MUDs are not discounted at all.
That's
so you're
because
getting,
that's a county expense that they have fronted to put the infrastructure in for your neighborhood, your streets, your roads.
And a lot of times your MUD tax will decrease, especially if your neighborhood is new. That will begin to decrease the more that they build and the more people that move in there. Now, is it going to decrease till half? Absolutely not. But it will start to come down. But that homestead exemption is only on the school tax property portion, and then there's a smaller amount that's applied to everything else except for the MUD taxes. Okay? 65 years of age or over. This is a great benefit for our senior citizens because not only do you get an additional $10,000 off of those those school taxes, but you also freeze the value of your property where it is that moment, that time that you apply. So let's say you turn 65 and you live in that home until you're 85. For 20 years, while the rest of our property taxes are all going up, yours has stayed at that $2,022 amount that you locked it in at. Okay, now can you carry forward that with you? Yes, you can. So your homestead exemption, this changed this year. You can now, so the old rule was the homestead exemption stayed with the home until the end of the year, and you didn't take it with you. Now, as soon as you buy a new home, and this is very important because we have a lot of new construction. New construction does not have a homestead exemption on it. If you go buy your neighbor's house probably has a homestead exemption on it. You buy it, the homestead exemption carried over, and then in January you would have to file for your own homestead on the new property, and that's how the property would work. If you bought a new home, there is no homestead exemption on it. You were paying taxes all year long on a brand new home with no homestead exemption, and you had to wait until January because the rule was you had to own the home January 1st in order to claim the homestead exemption. That rule has changed. You can now claim your homestead exemption from the moment that you own the home. Okay, so the minute that you purchase a home, you're going to want to take it, go to the county appraisal district and say, I want you to move my homestead exemption to my brand new home. And you're going to get the tax write-off right from the get-go with that. And you do that as well with your disability and disabled veterans. You can move those now. They go into play immediately when you file.
And okay? I can't tell you how many times I sit down at a listing agreement, and I'm sorry we don't have a real list sheet with us, but we can look on our sheets and see any type of homestead or any type of exemptions you have. And I'm like, I just listed this home this week. I'm like, you've been in this home for 2 years. Yeah, we never have filed our taxes. I'm like, well, that's probably like $7,000 or $8,000 that you've eaten in 2 years just because you didn't fill out this one piece of paper.
Yeah, $100 on your mortgage probably would be what that is, right? Okay, so we have homestead exemption, we have over 65 exemption, and let's talk about what I do a lot, which is disabled veterans. So with disabled veterans, if you have 100% disability, you pay zero taxes. That includes school taxes, local, county, fire, EMS, college because your Lone Star is on there, and you don't pay MUD taxes.
And the reason that is so important that your realtor knows that immediately is because your buying power just grew substantially. You can buy a whole lot more home because when we're talking what's a comfortable monthly payment for you, we're including taxes and insurance on there. So if you don't have to pay taxes in there, $7,000-8,000 a month, that's a whole lot. You just increased your buying power by $100,000.
My property taxes a month are almost $800. So if you're talking about zero, you're talking about you now can buy a much
$100,000
more expensive home because you don't have any property taxes that you're paying for. Plus, you don't have to escrow anything, so that lowers your closing costs on the purchase. Okay, so at 100% disability, you pay zero taxes. At 70 to 100%, there's a $12,000 additional deduction to your homestead exemption. So I had a lot of people seem to think that, oh, well, I get my taxes exempted up to $12,000 and the taxes are only $7,600 a year, so I don't have to pay any taxes. That's not how it works. If you're sitting at 70 or 80 or 90% disability with the VA, you're literally going to take that $12,000 and put it towards the property value of the home. So let's say, again, your home is worth, on the property tax records, $200,000. They're going to take $12,000 off of that, and now at $188 is what you're paying property taxes on. Then you take another $40,000 off of that for your homestead, and now you're looking at what, $138 is what they're going to be taxing you on. So that's
the rate, the value down.
It brings the assessed value down, so now you're taxed at a lower rate. It doesn't eliminate the property tax if you're under 100%. Now there's a sliding scale that works, and it's on the websites where you can see what each of those are, and it gets down to as little as, I think, 10% will get you a $5,000 additional deduction to your homestead exemption. So if you have any questions about that, obviously you can reach out, or you can check your local CAD and find out what that property tax is. So
you also said you cannot claim both over 65 and 100% disabled. You have to choose. So obviously, if you were disabled, you'd choose that one. You can claim a homestead and less if you're 100% disabled. It says, no, this reduction in the assessed value is not an elimination of the taxes. So that's what we're saying. You're not eliminating $12,000. So that's a good clarification on that. It's just bringing the value down.
It's just bringing the value down. So when your tax bills come out in April, you're going to get this bill, and I guarantee you 100% your tax bill has increased. Okay. So now, what do? Judy and I help a lot. We send out emails every year to our homeowners, and we say, tax bills are coming. Give me a call if you don't like what you see. So what happens? Every year, by law, the county is allowed to raise your assessed value 10% every single year. Okay. If you don't have a homestead exemption, that's with a homestead exemption. If you don't have a homestead exemption on your home, they can raise it whatever they want. When does that come into play? If you have rental properties, you can only have one homestead exemption in the state of Texas, right? So if you have 4 rental properties, those rental properties are not homesteaded. They are going to be raised at whatever amount the county says that they should be raised, and they're trying to get it to current market value. That's a term you need to understand.
And in case you haven't watched the show, in the past 2 years, you probably increased your market value about 47%. So do the math on that. Right. That's like doubling your taxes.
Right. It's so if you've owned your home for the past 5 years, let's say, and your assessed value is lower than what you see that market value at, that's a good thing. But what you're seeing is they're steadily raising it 10% every year, trying to catch up with the market value.
So if you're in a neighborhood that still has new construction, you know your floor plan is in, and you're like, God, I bought my house for $300, and they're selling it for $400. Well, guess where they're trying to get your taxes
to? They're trying to get your taxes to that market value. Mm-hmm. So here's why it's important. Homestead, number one, is going to cap what they can raise your property tax level amount at each year. Number one. Number two, it's going to give you a discount with that homestead exemption. And number three, what you need to understand is if you've owned that home for a long time, obviously your property taxes are not caught up with market value.
Right.
When you go and buy a new home or you sell that home, that new buyer is now subject to the market value.
Yep.
Okay. So you have to understand that when you get that property tax record, and let's say you bought a house in the last 2 years where the property taxes have just, they've really been trying to catch up, and now the market values are way out of control. And they're great because now you've got equity, right? But now it's way up there. You go and you buy this home and you're like, well, I looked on the property tax records and they were only $7,000 and now they're telling me they're $10,000. Well, that's because you bought the home and they jumped it to the brand new market value.
And know that, especially rural properties, it takes those rural counties longer to catch up. So we do a lot of rural business, and you've lived there for 20 years. And I don't mean this ugly, but I'm going to make it direct. People, they love it. All my taxes haven't come up and they haven't had to pay it. But then when they get caught up or they get assessed again, then they want to get sideways and not be happy about it. Well, you've been undervalued for years. And I've heard lots of complaints in Montgomery County, Liberty County, Harris County. Oh my God, they've increased, because the taxing authorities are hitting everybody hard with these increases, and it's hard. But you know, try to remember, maybe you haven't been increased in 20 years, or you're certainly not at the value you should be. I know you don't like it.
Well, I know nobody wants to pay more taxes.
Nobody
I'll
does.
be the first to raise my hand and say
But get this, and I guess I'm one of the few people who don't complain that much. Do I like it? No, but schools, roads, we are constantly under construction. Everything's growing. So many people are moving here. It has to be done.
Right.
I mean, you know,
well, and
no politician, nobody wants to.
Right.
But how do you think these things get done? You see the growth. I mean, look at Valley Ranch Town Center, what has happened in 2 years. Where do you think that came from? And that's just Atascocita. Oh my God, if you've gone down 1960, they're doing that. They're going to do a flyover. They're about to do a flyover here at North Park. That's what you're paying for. And yeah, no one wants to pay for that, but that's where the money comes from.
That's where you live.
That's where it comes
from.
from.
So understand, you're in a growing community.
Right.
And with that growing community,
that's why rurally they don't come up as much, because you're not doing that kind of.
But we have a lot of
infrastructure.
infrastructure going on. We have people moving here like crazy, which unfortunately has raised our property values.
What you just said, it raised
thing.
the value, which is good, but then it's going to raise the taxes, so you don't get one without the other.
Right. So with that being said, market value is the item that we need to focus on right now, because your market value, if you've recently bought a home, you are paying market value. I know I am. So my property taxes, and they're going to go up 10% every year, and right now they're going to stay that way. So they changed the rules where if you buy a home, you now pay the market value on the home on your taxes. It's flipped. It used to be that it carried forward. It doesn't carry forward anymore.
She's done a lot of research on it.
I've done a lot of research, and it sucks, but I'm now paying market value, and my property taxes are going to go up 10% every single year. But there are things that you can do to try to mitigate that. And let's talk about that real quick. So you have what's called if you've lived in your home for a long time, on your property tax records, by the market value and by the assessed value, you're going to have a cap loss amount on there. That cap loss amount is the difference between your market value and your assessed value. That's due to that homeowners exemption. So you're going to be paying a dollar amount, a property tax amount on the assessed value, but they're noting the cap loss on there of the gap between them, the assessed value where you've owned the home forever and it's not caught up to market value. You're going to see that cap loss on there.
Why do they even have two on there? That's just so stupid. That's ingovernable.
Because they're trying to get it to the market value.
But why even have two values? Just have one.
Because we have a lot of people that have an assessed value.
Yeah.
They've owned their home for 30 years. Now they paid taxes on $100,000, and now the home is worth $300,000. And so they're showing you the difference between that.
Well, the thing is
exemption.
they don't have the personnel to come out and look at your house and see if you've walked it. You know, they're doing a lot of things aerial now, drones and digitally. So they can't come in your house and see if you have upgraded the whole inside, you know, or if it's original.
Right. So let's talk about market value and how you fight your property taxes. And we're going to do this again in April, and we're going to have a whole segment on it later where we're going to talk about, we've got resources we can send you to if you want to do it yourself. We have some information for you. But basically, what you're going to want to do is you want to look at that market value, and you're going to call your trusted realtor, and you're going to say, send me comps. I need market comps. I need to know, is my house really worth this? I've lived here for 40 years, and they're telling me they're raising my taxes again, and I don't want to pay more taxes. So I need help so I can fight with the appraisal district. And I will tell you, every one of them that called me last year, I was not able to help them. I provided them with the information, but all of their property values had increased so much. I had nothing to go with comps in the real estate market. So then my next question was, what condition is the house in? Have you put a roof on?
Yeah.
Are you still sitting with Formica and old carpet or old tile? Is the house run down? Is the porch falling off? Or do you look anything like your neighbors? Okay, like if your neighbors moved in, torn down houses,
Right.
and they put up these grand mansions, and you're still sitting in a shotgun with Granny on the front porch. Those are valuable, tangible items that we can then take to the property appraisal district, and we say, hey, look, we're not our neighbors. Oh, or look at my neighbors. I've got a nice house, but my value isn't what you're seeing in the area, because this neighbor has 14,000 used cars in the front lot, and this neighbor has 2 mobile homes that are run down and they never mow the grass.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can take that and fight that with your county. So keep that in mind when you're looking at, hey, how can I reduce my property taxes? We always tell you ask, because if you don't ask, you don't know.
And always, no matter what, protest, because
you want it going on record that you came in
and you protested.
and you protested it. We want that.
One of the mistakes that I personally made is when I built my home, I built a custom home, and they, I swear to God, the day we closed, I don't know how they know, but they're all knocking on my door. Can I come in? No, you cannot. You do not have to let them in your house, because I have a large game room above my garage that you don't really know about unless I tell you about. They can, they've got their information from the permits that were filed. That's how they get their basic information. But I wouldn't let them come in. I'm shoot them away from my property. But they knew we had moved in, so they knew that on December the 22nd, 7 years ago, that property taxes were starting that day, because I wasn't, I was moved in. They saw my control, especially, and investors should know this, especially if you've got a second home.
Right.
And investment, we'll talk about it later, but second homes and investment homes are 2 different things. That's a topic we need to put on the calendar.
Yes, true. So when you go to protest, we always encourage you to protest. I mean, the way that we've seen things going lately, we want you to protest your taxes, obviously, and the market is changing. We still have home values that are increased. We're 7.2% year over year as of October in home sale value increases. So we are still have an increased home value. You may see home prices dropping.
That's because they were too high to begin with.
But we have still grown equity in this state.
Absolutely.
And it's a wonderful thing to have if you're a homeowner. We want to see equity. We want to see home values go up, but we don't want to see the property taxes increase. So that's kind of an important thing to remember. The other thing is, when you buy a home, you're going to get a piece of paper in the mail, several of them, that say, number one, pay us $40, $70, and we'll file your homestead exemption for you. It's free of charge. You go online on the property website. You can do it yourself. Do not pay anyone else to file your property homestead, number one. Number two, the appraisal district is going to send you a sweet little letter that says, how much did you pay for your property?
Don't answer it.
Throw it away. They don't have any market data. Texas is one of the very few, and I will tell you that our legislators have fought really hard to keep that information confidential. Just because you think somebody can see it on the internet does not mean that they can.
The only time you share your sales price or your purchase price is if it is lower.
If it's lower than what they're telling you that it is. Okay, so they have no right to it. So I don't care what anybody tells you. The appraisal district does not have any right to know how much you paid for your home unless you want them to have that right.
And you don't.
And
Darla came up with some good facts. She's a really good investigator here. Here's a fun fact. Texas has the 3rd highest property tax rate in the country. Oh my God. But, there's a but. We don't have any state income tax. So I and Darla, we've never lived anywhere else but Texas. So we don't know any better. We don't know anything. We've always normally paid these taxes, and we're like, okay, this is how much we pay for taxes. We have so many people relocating from California, Colorado, other states, and they're freaking out with these taxes. But Darla, the researcher of the group, duo, has done a lot of research, and so she's going to tell us about Texas versus California. And taxes are going to get you one way or another. It's just a different way of getting you in Texas versus another state.
So while Texas may have one of the highest property tax rates across the country, we have no state income tax, okay? So let's just, because we see a lot of California people coming over here, California is the 3rd most expensive state to live in. We've all heard that, right?
Who's 1 and 2?
I think New York is number 1, and number 2 is somewhere else up north. I mean, it's
Washington.
I think it could be Florida. I think it could be Florida. So the 3rd most expensive state is California. Their effective property tax rate is 76%, so under 1 percentage point, and is lower than our average Texas property rate of 1.8%. The national average across the United States, 1.07. Now, here's a fun little fact. I looked up, okay, what is California's state income tax? So a lot of Californians are griping.
You almost
said the word. They're griping because our property taxes are so high, okay? Our property taxes, let's say in my neighborhood, 3.2%. I don't think anything about it. My mom and dad on a piece of rural property, they were 1.4 or something like that. I don't complain about it because I'm in a brand new house, almost, in a brand new neighborhood. State income tax in California ranges from 1 to 12.3%. What that means is whether you own a home or not, you pay on your income. So you have a federal income tax, you have a state income tax, you have a city tax, and then you have a property tax.
You're going to pay taxes,
right?
People.
So in Texas,
depends on which way you're going to pay.
Texas, we don't have that state income tax. So while our effective property tax rate, and that's only to people that own property. If you don't own property, you don't pay for it unless it's in the rent, which a lot of times it is. Yeah. If you don't own property, but if you live in California, you're paying on your income no matter if you own property or not, right? Yep. So if you're paying 12.3% in state income tax in California, but you're only paying 0.7% in property tax, and I've got a property tax at 3.2%.
Come to Texas and
who do you think's winning out on that one? We are, right? So what's our takeaway today?
Understand your tax rate before buying a home, because when you are budget friendly, most people are looking at what their monthly payment is.
We're all
and I know what that is. Everybody, of course, wants a brand new home, but if we can kick you out, if that's not in your budget because the tax rate are too high, we can probably kick you out 10 or 15 miles and get you in a better house just in a more rural area. Hire a realtor who knows your real estate and Texas property tax exemption form. So if I hear you say you're a veteran, I hear you say you're over 65, something like that, we're going to remind you to do that and calculate that. Make sure your lender knows that, to calculate what's called a worksheet. When we go house hunting, we are to stay in budget, because in a high tax, so Darla's neighborhood, you may be able to afford $300,000 houses. If I take you to Dayton, you may be able to afford $350,000. And believe it or not, the difference in that $50,000 is huge for the quality of the home that you're going to be purchasing.
20 miles up the road, you could be paying 1% less on your property
So
taxes.
you should be getting a market analysis from your realtor for multiple reasons. Number one, every year when your taxes come out, just so you personally know the real value of it. If you were a buyer, you should still be doing a market analysis of the home you're wanting to purchase. Just on the flip side, just like when you meet with me to list your home, the buyer's agent, just because the list price says $389,000, your buyer's agent just say, yep, it's $389,000. You need to go back and look and have a market analysis done, and then we're going to tell you, hey, that list price is a little low, it's a little higher, it's right on target. That helps us with our negotiation to still come in with a very strong, if it's like, oh my God, everything else is $15,000 less than that, we're not offering that price, because remember, they can list it whatever they want. Okay. Number four, don't trust your largest asset to some push of a button on the website. Stop that. Do your research. Pick up the phone. Darla and I would love to work with you, answer any questions. This is the biggest transaction, biggest asset you have. I missed number three. Oh, no, I didn't. The market analysis. That's it.
Yeah. So as far as like picking a realtor, I mean, doing a really quick market update right now,
yes,
we're really slow.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's Christmas time. It's the holidays. The interest rates have gone up. We are looking to see what the Fed's going to do. They're about to do something pretty soon, and we're hoping that it's not.
Well, we can't tell. So the week of Thanksgiving, we were always dead. We knew that. I can tell by, I'm a heavy listing agent. I can tell by how many showings are going on in my house. So Thanksgiving weekend, I only had one showing on all my listings. This week, we picked up, Courtney has picked up, Angela has picked up. So our heavy listing agents in the firm, I can tell we're getting more listings. If you're watching me, I've got 3 more listings coming on today. Right. So that's very positive.
So we're very much in what the market says is happening.
Yes.
More listings coming on. Not quite so many people looking right now. So,
and the reason that is the holidays.
Well, it is.
And the inflation.
Inflation, and it's the holidays, and I think people are just
everything's
they're just trying to take a break right now, and we totally understand that. So,
but I think what's going to happen out the first of the year, you're going to realize the sun is still coming up, the world is still moving around. You still got to buy a house.
You still got to buy a house.
You're going to adjust and figure out what you need to do. And so we talked about this in our agent meeting today. The Agents at Design Realty Group, Choosing That Realty, have a lot of business associates with different opportunities and different programs. We talked about the interest rate buy down program. We talked about different things. We won't go there, but that's part of choosing a realtor. That once we have a willing and able buyer or seller, we've got a program that's going to get you in a home. You just have to want
our lenders are wonderful.
They've done a very good job
right now. So if you are looking to buy,
Yep.
Judy has a couple of really great listings coming up that you're going to know about first right here.
Yes, so two this week, 11915 Obsidian Way in ding, 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 Mont Bellevue, one of the highest rated school districts in all of our area out here. When we played in Splendora, not going to say how many years ago, a long time ago in basketball, they will beat your ass. They don't care what sport it is, boy or girl. If you play against Marbles, you're getting your ass spanked. I mean, it's just that way. I cried during basketball. It was embarrassing. They had a man coach. That didn't even happen back then. Them girls are running up and down the court like NBA stars. We can't even get the ball thrown in.
They were playing us like sour
They
games.
just stole the ball and made a layup and stole the ball and made a layup for like 30 times in a row. Anyway, excellent school district in Mont Bellevue. It is a huge house. It's almost 3,500 square feet, 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath, and we are listed for $549. Next listing is brand new, came on yesterday, 204. Hope I'm not slaughtering the name. How do you say that? Catati KC. Anyway, it's in Conroe. It's off of 105 in Hills of Westlake subdivision. It's only
Catati.
we don't. I'll have to ask my client. Hopefully she's not.
I can't read her handwriting.
Catoti. That's it. One word, 2 words, second word, CAY. Good thing we're not playing charades. We never win.
Catoti.
Yes, Catoti. We're going with that.
Catoti.
It is a Chesmar home. It's a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's only 3 years old. We're listed for $349,950. These clients are wonderful. Guess where they're doing? They're moving to Florida. Their oldest daughter's 20, is working at Disney. This is off the subject because I'm going to Disney on Friday. She works at Disney and she is wants to be in the hotel industry. So I didn't know this. Disney has their own school. It's not college like University of Disney, but it is their own program that they put these students through. They provide housing and they're teaching her to manage hotels and restaurants. And so she will then have a job at one of the Disney resorts. She's working at a restaurant. So the second daughter is going at the end of December, so that's why they're selling their house. She's in animation, so she's going to be behind the scenes animating. So I thought that was super cool because we are going to Disney on Friday. I will miss you guys next week, so Darla will be here.
I am
talking
on
about
my own.
all by herself.
I'm going to see if I can have a guest. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about the down payment assistance program, grant program that the state of Texas has. It's a wonderful program. Anytime I get first-time home buyers, the first question is, what first-time home buyer programs are available? There's not a bucket of a first-time home buyer program, but there is a grant program if you qualify, and we'll talk about all that next week, where you can get down payment or closing cost assistance that will help you make that first purchase, which right now money is key to a lot of people. Cash is king, and as much as your cash as you can reserve, we want you to be able to do that. So we're going to talk about that down payment assistance program next week.
You guys have a fabulous week. Don't miss me. I will be at the Mouse's house
she's
next
at the
week.
Mouse's house.
Watch me on Facebook because there'll be lots of pictures of Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse and all those people with my grandkids. So we're super excited about that. We appreciate you guys spending your lunch hour
Previous
with us.
episodes are on our website, or you can go to YouTube and put in Real Talk with the Design Realty Group, and you can check out some of our past episodes. But have a great week.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.